Well, welcome everyone. It is wonderful to see you. Lots of familiar faces and some new ones. So if you are able to, we would love to see your face. So we would love to see you on camera. We understand if you are driving or doing something else where you can't, but we are conversational and casual, and we would love to see all of your faces. My name is Hamza, and I'm with the Small Giants community, and I have a couple of colleagues as well. Bridget, Katie, and Paul, and they're all somewhere up at the top. And we're really excited to have this conversation with you today. Just a couple of notes. Again, we're casual. There's going to be opportunities to ask questions throughout this presentation, a dedicated time at the end, but you can also submit questions through the chat feature, and we'll pay attention to that and do our very best to get to them. A bunch of you have also submitted questions when you registered. Thank you so much for that. We'll also do our best to get to those throughout the conversation. We will share recording, we will share notes and a few resources probably by tomorrow following this presentation as well. So with that, I am super excited to introduce our friends Rane and Deanna. Rane is the VP of Client Experience at Venturity. She's in the blue. And Deanna is the CEO of Venturity. This is a new role for her that we're super excited about. Venturity has been a wonderful member of the Small Giants community, a big supporter, and they've been involved with the summit. Rane is a graduate of the Leadership Academy, and we are super excited to learn from them today. And the floor is yours, Rane and Deanna. Welcome.
Wonderful. Thank you. We're happy to be here. Thanks for having us. Go ahead and get started with our Sure. So we've got a few slides to go over. We want to keep it conversational. I think we set aside an hour or so, but we will probably spend about 40 minutes talking about our client experience approach and just how we live a passion of exceptional experience within our organization. And then we will set aside some time for questions. We want to hear about you guys as well. A couple things that we will cover today is we'll talk about why we put a focus and emphasis on client experience, what that means to us explicitly, and really it's rooted in building trust, and we'll again talk about what that means and how we define trust. Then I'll turn it over to Rane, and she'll talk about the life cycle and the expectations that we have for the program, both internally and externally, and then how we measure our success with that and how we obtain feedback. So before we get started, though, we want to do a quick polling question just to see from the audience a little bit about where everybody stands as it relates to client experience in their own organizations. So if you'll take a minute to quickly answer, we'll see where we are. Give it ourselves. Okay. So Hamza, will we get the results immediately, or are you going to show us how's that going to work?
Yeah, we should definitely see it.
Awesome. Oh, wonderful. So a good amount of you have some aspect or focus on client experience on the retention side, as well as the attrition process when a client comes to you and wants to make a change. So this will be fun. We've got some opportunity to learn as well then. So we're going to share, like I said, our experiences and our why behind it, and then we'll have time at the end to really get feedback, answer questions, but also love to hear about what you guys are doing as well, especially if it's validates what we're doing or different. I think the one thing we really enjoy and especially love about Small Giants is the sharing that we all do with each other and how we are very willing to give of information. And we will be, as Hamza said, supplying some resources after the program to you guys to use if it's something that works for you.
We actually implemented some things I learned during the academy around building trust internally. So we'll actually hit that a little bit during the presentation.
Yeah. All right, so without further ado, let's get started. So the why of client experience, and we've been, working on this purposefully since about 2017. And what we noticed was at that time, the world of finance and accounting was evolving. Our jobs were changing. We weren't just compliance folks that sat in the back room, and sort of that whole necessary evil of, don't mind us, we're in the background getting our accounting done. We'll give you that information and you guys focus on the core aspects of your business. We realized that was really changing, is that need for more information and dialogue was out there. And as we realized more and more that having good information is powerful and key to making decisions about your business. And more importantly, management teams and business owners started really putting an emphasis on that, and getting away so much from just the compliance. Oh, I have to get my accounting done, and I don't know anything about accounting, and so I don't want to deal with it. So as we started having more dialogue there, we realized that we needed to add some things to our service offering and really be purposeful about it. We thought we were doing it, but we wanted to be purposeful about it. And the reason that we figured out that we weren't as purposeful, or we needed to pay attention, was that as we were analyzing our year end back in 2017, we realized that, and it was especially impactful for me because at the time I was on the new business side, but we realized that, clients were going out the back door about as fast as we were bringing them in. So on the one hand, we're like, oh, we're getting new clients, we're growing. But then we realized that really we were netting out almost to zero every year, and kind of just on that routine of being on a hamster wheel. And that's frustrating. It's not energizing. As we all know, it's tougher to bring a client on and more costly than it is to keep them. Now, we don't want to keep a client at all cost, and we'll talk about that as we go through this. But just putting more emphasis and focus on why we were losing those clients was something that we wanted to really spend some time on. So of course, great accounting is the foundation of what we do, but we also realized that we needed to have a very close and trusted relationship with our clients. So what happened next? So we put together a client experience work group, and we formed it in 2017. And Rane was on that group, and so was I, as well as others in our organization from various levels, from staff accountant up to and including members of the management team, which was the two of us. So we put this group together, and we were very purposeful about our process. We took about 2 years from 2017 to 2019 to really understand why we were losing clients, and went client by client, through those years to really say what's happening here. And we identified certain key things that were trends that we were seeing. And once we realized what we needed to do there, we started formulating our approach and our program for moving forward, which was rooted in that trusting advisor role that we'll talk about. So in 2020, we were so purposeful about it when we rolled it out that we created Rane's role, which was the director of client experience. We wanted to make sure we were very purposely focused on it, and that we had our client experience program running in parallel with our great accounting program. In 2023, after we had some experience under our belt, we're accountants, so we've got a really nice purposeful process. We wanted to get back together and say, okay, is the process still applicable? Do we need to make some refinements and changes? How do we take it to the next level? So this past year, at the end of 2023, we reconvened the work group, and we're back up and running again. So what is client experience to Venturity? For us, it was really about reimagining the way that we are present with our clients and really with each other first and foremost. We're firm believers, and I know it goes hand in hand with small giants and the beliefs here that we need to take care of our people first, and it starts with our people internally. So we wanted to take a look at that as to how we work together, and then also what that means for our relationships for our clients. And we were very specific about it not being so much what we do. We don't want to be known for what we do, but we want to be known for who we are and how we engage with our clients, the role that we play with them, really offering to them, as I said, that comprehensive experience that not only is rooted in great accounting, but also really taking a very explicit and active interest in their business, helping them to solve problems, helping them to really understand how they can use the information that we're putting together to make decisions about their business. Being accountants, this was a little bit unusual for us to think about some of those softer types of skill sets. So really it was about evaluating our mindset and allowing ourselves to really grow and get ourselves out of our comfort zone.
As well as come up with how we can measure and continue to look at it at multiple different stages of the relationship.
So this is one of our favorite quotes. When we rolled out the program, we did almost an entire hour on what it means to be a trusted advisor training with our organization. And this was one of our key quotes from that day that we spent together. Trust is built in drops and lost in buckets. So Kevin Plank, CEO of Under Armour. And not, one step forward, 2 steps back. It's that same kind of concept. It's a trust building and becoming a trusted advisor, as everyone on this knows today, is really about that purposeful, consistent, continuous process and doing what you say you're going to do, and just really being very purposeful about it each and every day in everything we do. And really the point that we also wanted to deliver when we went through this training with our organization is that everyone throughout the organization can be a trusted advisor in the role that they are playing. So it's not just held for the most senior people of our organization, our person at the front desk, our office managers, the first person that someone sees when they come into our office, whether it's a vendor that we have a relationship with, or someone that's going to be interviewing, or a client coming for a meeting. That's that first impression. And there's a role to play there to start establishing trust day one. So it was really a lot of time spent on that and really working with our team to understand that in that role that you play, you have the ability to affect that trusted advisor relationship that we have with our clients.
And we measure that at every level in the performance review. So we do line up our exceptional service expectations within the performance review. And so they will hear examples of how they can be trusted advisors. Very oftentimes, our staff accountants ask, how can I build that kind of relationship? I'm not leading. And so we really drive home different ways that they can build that trust with the clients.
So I'm going to turn it over to Rane, really, to take it from here to really talk through our approach. But before I do, is there any kind of questions or anything like that you guys have big picture that you've seen so far? Any feedback that you have that you'd like to weigh in on, or anything specific there?
All righty.
Okay.
So
moving on.
Around approach, we created a comprehensive client experience initiative and program, and it really started internally with developing what trusted advisors look like internally. And this is a little bit where we use some of my training in the Leadership Academy. Is we built a trusting teams document that basically was in alignment with our passions, which are called values to some others, but we call them our passions because we're very passionate about the values that we put in place. And it really started with assuming positive intent. We have a lot of subject matter experts. Everyone can do standard accounting, but there are people that can bring all different kinds of strengths to the table. And really assuming positive intent is our core value of everybody is in it to promote one team, many talents on the team, and put our best foot forward with clients. We rolled this out and did the belief cycle. We worked through different programs to really help coach internal team members on how to build that trust internally. I've been here 9 years, and I will say when I started, I was a team on my own island. And when we incorporated the Great Game of Business, we really did start approaching it as one big team and not the individual teams that have their individual clients. And so this was just an additional step toward building that mutual respect among teams and really identifying our subject matter experts. From an external perspective, we're accountants, we like a process. We're also accountants that not all of them have our personalities and like to really be put in crucial conversations or be sitting in front of an 8-person or 25-person board to deliver financials. So we do a lot of coaching around comfort level. We do mock summits where we allow our team members to practice the delivery to our clients. And so really detailed purposeful process that will help build rapport. So we aren't just the accountants that want to sit in the background and deliver financials to a client. We really want to understand the operations side of the business, what makes them tick, what works well for them. And so even when we're delivering our work product, we're asking questions around the whole organization. We get into HR questions, operations questions, field questions, and really show a care, a curiosity, and positivity around learning the client's business. So it's something that really, I get a lot of positive feedback from on clients in terms of the team really asked the next question. When a number didn't look right, they may have asked one, but really we teach our team there could be 3 or 4 that you need to ask to ensure that you're getting your questions answered, delivering timely and accurate financials, but also really showing the client we're just not getting paid to deliver financials. We really want to be a part of the team. And we actually have a few jokes around here around if you're on the client's website, you've really made that trusted advisor status. But ultimately, with that approach, we gain mutual respect and we gain is equal business stature. So we may be sitting in a room with a 25-person board, and because of the way we approach it, it really does create that equal business stature. And because we give the coaching to our team to feel confident in that, then they can go into those meetings feeling good about it. So in each of our meetings, we really have a purposeful execution. I'm taking that out of the
word.
that word is
No,
coming out of the program from now on. No, I'm just kidding. So we always ask in any meeting we are in with a client, what could we be doing well, better, more, or different? And those align with our passions of great accounting and unmatched integrity. So in this slide, you really see all of our passions, which are the great accounting, unmatched integrity, exceptional service, engaging environment, and lifelong learning. And the purpose approach to these meetings hit all of our passions. So if you ask a client, describe Venturity, they generally hit most of these passions and how we are present with the clients. It deepens our relationships and it also allows growth opportunity. So we have a lot of conversations when we interview around what's your comfort level. I'm looking for if someone can hold the room, asking questions around, are they interested in learning that and really giving that growth opportunity and providing the steps to help grow to somebody that might not be comfortable delivering. So this is an example of the client life cycle. So we touch client experience in every aspect of the life cycle of a client. So from the sales perspective, when our VP of sales or our BD team is out, they're talking about client experience, they're talking about exceptional service, they're talking about expectation setting and expectation alignment. And we continue that throughout the life of the process and of the life of the client. So any meeting, we're talking about expectations and mutual alignment and making sure that we're meeting those expectations of them and that we're aligned. So you can see even when we implement a new client, we're talking about it. We revisit when we transition to an ongoing team. We also touch base after we've transitioned to an ongoing team just to make sure things are going well from that change. And then if we're transitioning someone out of Venturity, whether that's our decision or theirs, we maintain that to the end. And what we've seen from that is we actually keep clients that are leaving even longer than we used to versus getting a 30-day notice. It could be up to 6 months, or we may have to say, okay, it's time. We know you're moving on, but we touch this every time. And it also gives myself and my counterpart, who is the VP of accounting, the ability to take a look, see where we're not aligned, and make a recommendation to the management team if it's a client that we're not aligned with. And so we tie back to all of that based on what we're going to see next, which is our expectation summary.
Yeah, I'll say a couple things before we move on. I think a couple things that we learned through the 2-year process when we were analyzing our attrition was that, we used to get these notices, like clients don't come to us because their accounting is really buttoned up or it's working great and they just want to improve how they get their accounting done. They usually come to us because they struggle to attract and retain key folks in their accounting department, or they can't sleep at night or what have you. And so what we found out during that analysis process is that we solve a lot of pain points when we bring a client on, and we get up and running, and we were rocking and rolling and thinking we're doing great, but we never had a mechanism or a real forum to come back around and say, okay, we've solved those pains. What other pains are coming up? What has changed? I mean, we have clients that we've been with for 10 or 15 years. And back at that point in time, we might have had a client for a long time, and then all of a sudden we get a notice, and it was a 30-day notice, and we thought we were doing our jobs, and that just didn't feel great. And we were like, well, we thought we were doing it. So we knew there wasn't alignment there, right? And so this process has really changed that, because every time we get together, we're like, hey, this is what you told us in the beginning. Okay, we're 6 months down the road. We're in a transition from our onboarding team to our ongoing team. You still good? How's that going? Anything that's changed? Is it what you thought it was going to be? Do we need to make some modifications? The nice thing is it's a mutual expectation, which you'll see here in a minute. So if there's things on our end that we're finding that we hadn't anticipated, it gives our folks a real opportunity to bring those conversations to the table in the right kind of way. And as Rane said, because of all of that, now when things aren't going right, we know, we get the call, we're in conversation and dialogue with our clients. We have the opportunity to work through it if it's the right thing to do, or to map out that purposeful transition. So it's really about that journey that we've experienced. I think those are probably the two biggest changes that I've seen in day-to-day operation from the implementation of this process.
One of the questions was, was it fully internal, the work group? And we actually, most of it was internal, but we did bring in our Sandler coach to help us define what trusted advisor looked like for us. And so she sat in our work group for about a year, and she actually helped us with, as Deanna talked about, upfront contracts. When we start a meeting, we set the agenda verbally, we check time. And so we use that globally, including when you walk up, we're open office. So for a bunch of accountants who are head down doing accounting, everybody's out in the open. And so we use upfront contracts even to ask questions internally. Hey, do you have 5 minutes? I need to ask you 2 questions. And then respect the fact if somebody says, I really don't, I'm under a tight deadline. And so we're using a lot of the tools that she brought to us during that work group as well.
That's really helped us with our messaging, both internally and externally.
There was another question around how do we communicate the transitions from the sales to implementation to ongoing. And that's communicated during the sales process, that they will have kind of the cleanup crew. And then when they get to steady state, they will have an ongoing team. I actually manage that process, and I'm part of those calls. And once we identify the ongoing team, we actually have gotten to a place where we're identifying their ongoing team when we get the deal. So we're able to introduce them at the beginning of the relationship and have that lead be involved throughout the implementation. And we actually do a stop, intro, plan. We walk through what the transition looks like for them. We ask them to share about their business, because everyone likes to talk about their business and they get really excited. So we usually will say, can you share your passion and how'd you get involved here? And they'll give us that. But ultimately, we take responsibility for training our team for a seamless transition. And while in the first meeting, most clients are like, but we love so-and-so or so-and-so. By the time I check in with them, when the transition is complete, I've not ever had one client ask me to move back. So we really have kind of proved out that process, and that it is not painful to the client other than meeting new people. We use a group email throughout that transition. So they'll see the team start owning, the steady state team start owning their communication throughout the process. And it's proved to be really successful.
Forms deeper relationships too, because they can maintain those relationships with our implementation directors, and then they have a team. And so it's really about, we talk a lot about selling the Venturity approach and, comprehensively throughout the organization. So now we're really, turning it into a positive, that they can have all these touch points within our organization that they can reach out to if needed.
So we talked a little bit about our expectation summary. You guys will get a copy of this after the presentation, but ultimately, this is what we present throughout the relationship at every client experience, regroup, meetings, transitions. And we have it defined by 3 key areas: great accounting, active partnership, and open communication. So that's what we commit to, but we also ask our clients to commit to that. And so we can't provide great accounting if the client isn't giving us what we need. And so we've got defined points of what we need from them and our expectations, as well as what they can expect from us. An active partnership, this is ultimately what gets us from being a vendor to a trusted advisor. Because if we're a vendor, we're just kicking out accounting and we aren't getting involved in operations. We're not asking questions. If we're a partner that knows where this company wants to go, what are their pain points? When they come to us, like Deanna said, they could be a mess. We get them clean, but then where do you want to take your company and how can we help you get there? And, I'm talking anywhere at looking at labor rates to how they could be, more successful with the machinery they use and giving them KPIs that will help them run better. And then the third one, open communication, is really committing to having transparent conversations. If you are unhappy, it's okay. We can have a crucial conversation. Deanna mentioned we set ourselves up for those and we're not being surprised by those. Well, now we're touching those even when we have a gut, because sometimes the client doesn't want to have a crucial conversation. So we have to rip the Band-Aid off and say, we have a feeling here. Can we visit? And then it comes out like, oh, well, I was really upset about this. And we have other ways to kind of touch base that maybe aren't person to person if they're not feeling like having a conversation in front of the whole team, but we really do promote giving honest and transparent feedback in front of the team. And vice versa, we train our team on how to give feedback to the client in these meetings, tying back to expectations. So when we're meeting at the different stages of the relationship, we're hitting these and we're telling them what's going really well and what could be different. And we're also asking the client for that feedback. This is one of my favorite quotes of the whole client experience for us is, do not wait until the conditions are perfect to begin. Beginning makes the conditions perfect. People tend to want to wait, it might get better, it might get better, it might get better. That is not our approach. Ask for what you need up front, be direct about what you need, and have the hard conversation. And so we have also done trainings around crucial conversations and what that looks like.
Highly recommend that, and highly recommend the book.
All right. So you're going to talk a little bit about what we do to measure, and I'll talk or how we measure, and I'll talk about this.
Yeah. So as you can see from the life cycle, we've got a lot of processes in there for feedback and conversation and very purposeful conversation throughout all the touch points with our clients. But we wanted to have a way to do some objective measuring as well. It was almost like a belt and suspenders for us in the process. To just say, okay, we're giving all these opportunities, we're asking clients, we've talked to them about that process, they know what it's like, but we still want to have that opportunity for one more touch point if they so choose. And so we did a fair amount of research on this, and we actually got a lot of our information about NPS, which is Net Promoter Score. Hopefully you guys are familiar with that. It's a one question type of survey, and Rane will talk a little bit about how we use it. Our friends at Callawall, which is also Small Giants player, had adopted it as well, and we talked to them a lot, as well as got some other feedback from others before we officially settled on that. So it was good. We had that interaction, so it was really nice to have someone that we knew had values alignment is a top priority, and whether or not NPS would align with that. So for us, the key things about what was important in the measurement piece was to assess the client happiness or satisfaction, keep it very simple so they wouldn't have to do a lot to give us a response, easy for us to interpret, because we wanted to be able to make sure that if we're asking a client information, we're soliciting feedback, we have a process to get back to them quickly on it, as opposed to them just answering something with no response, something that we could repeat, and then also would promote transparency. So we did settle in on NPS, and now Rane's going to tell us a little bit about how we actually use it specifically.
So what I think I remember from the work group being a key point of this is wanting to catch a client at any given time. So it could be that just that day they have a complaint and we can pick that up, and that allows us to take action. So the action that we take, first of all, we read any positive reviews in the staff meetings. And so the whole team gets to hear how we're doing. We also have a wall in our big room that has quotes from the clients on our exceptional service. And so teams get to see, what has been said either internally or through meetings or in NPS. And then we have a detractor process. So if we receive a detractor, I get information from the team of what's been going on, and then I reach out to the client. I try not to get too much information beforehand, because I really want to be able to say, thank you so much. I'm going to go back to the team and then I'll come back to you with next steps. But I get enough to not go in completely blind. And then I meet with the client solo and get feedback on what's going on. And then I will follow up with them on whatever actionable items we're taking. So if perhaps somebody isn't trusting their numbers, I will add a level of review and then talk through that and how that's going to look like for them. It looks like we have a question. What was the impact on the workload? Do you need to add staff to cover any increased workload for the new client experience process? So that was a huge concern during.
Really great question.
Yeah. Especially since we're time trackers, and yes, that was a big concern when we first started. And so we actually did a measurement for what emotional wellness looked like for our clients that was in alignment with Great Game of Business, and what amount of time we spend a day on a client, and then what amount of time is on internal. And we basically shifted some of the responsibilities from our leadership team, because that ultimately a lot of the client experience falls on the leaders. And really from a staff perspective, there's no change. It's just the change in how you send an email and how you service your client. So there wasn't really a big time ask there. But from the leadership perspective, we actually have reduced the number of relationships for our controllers since we kicked this off. And we probably had 12 to 14 relationships, and now the controllers have 8 to 10. Some of that also has to do with the size of the deals that they're getting. But ultimately, we did shift a little bit in terms of what our team structure was.
Yeah, because what also we found was that we got more expanded scope. That wasn't the intention for going into this process. We wanted to just make sure we kept what we had and had it be an enjoyable experience on both sides. But by having these regroups and really digging in deeper to staying up with what's going on in the client business, we've been able to expand scope or detract scope depending on the situation, and just really have good dialogue so that we're constantly making sure that we're providing the client with what they need. So this process has allowed for that as well. I think that having that purposeful process puts pressure on that process versus on any one individual. So we really clearly, like we showed you just a representative sampling, but we put together sample emails and metrics, and we do some prep meetings and different things. And so while it seems like, oh gosh, that's a lot, it has ended up being less time to be more proactive about it than it is dealing with something on the backside that you had no idea was coming, or has turned into a bigger issue when you could have nipped it early on. Took us a little while to get there. I'm not going to lie, that first year, I think we even maybe played a mini game or offered a prize for the team that got through their first regroups first, just to encourage that, because especially when it's something new, you're a little bit hesitant to do it. But Rane was so great because she was able to walk through and just provide ongoing training. So it did take a little adjustment period for sure. And we had, I think, maybe one controller who decided that, that really necessarily wasn't for them, and they just wanted to do accounting and they moved on. But as we all know, when you adopt sometimes those new things, it's not going to be for everyone. Hands down, we believe it was the absolute right thing to do for our organization, but we also respect the fact that it may not be for every single person. So we had a little bit of change there, but overall, once we got through those initial meetings and our folks saw that they had the tools in place, and it was easier with having those tools to go back to conversations if they needed to, it quickly caught on.
We also built support structure around the teams to support the accounting and the client experience and new development. So not all of that was necessarily falling on our leaders. And like Deanna said, where we found a lot of time savings is the hair on fire complaint is going to take more time with the reaction. And I was telling Hensa and the team before the meeting, I got asked recently in an interview, how much of my time is negative? Like how much am I spending time on fixing things? And I said, 95% of my time is positive and getting great feedback on what we're doing. And 5% is helping fix things or putting something in place that's going to make a client feel better. And it's just louder, like the complaints are louder than the happiness, but ultimately that's what it breaks down to, is a 95-5. Looks like we have another question. Oh, whoops, I went. Let's see what this. What are the mechanics of your coaching program to support the development of trusted advisors? My experience is that some people take to that skill set more easily than others, one-on-ones, groups, multiple meetings. Yes, so I myself and the VP of Great Accounting meet with all of our leadership team one-on-one. New developing leaders will meet with our new development coordinators once a week, and then we meet with them once a month. I'm currently meeting with a couple of people weekly, because they have some big changes going on their team, whether it be personnel changes or clients that are experiencing exponential growth. And so from week to week, they need some help with just kind of mapping that out. So we do that, and that there's a section of that one-on-one that's around coaching and development. We also do our performance review quarterly. So they're getting a focus on what went really well this quarter and what the focus needs to be for the next quarter. And it just really, it's aligned with our passions. And so they are rated based on each of those passions. And we talk about how they can focus on that. We also have a toolbox out there in our public drive that has, as Deanna mentioned, sample recaps, sample agendas, questioning techniques. So for example, we just rolled out some new questioning techniques now that it's a new year around the financial presentation that will take that meeting to the next level. And so we do monthly accounting topics where we're teaching something monthly. We actually are kicking off an academy this year that is on specifics that team members have given us feedback that they would like to understand better. And that's everything from an accounting principle to how to run a financial summit to how do I deal with this situation, or how can I write better emails? And so one of our passions is lifelong learning. So we're constantly looking at ways to help grow our team.
And then we did a refresh this last year, as we put in the timeline. We had a fair amount of new people, and one of the great things about defining what a trusted advisor means, or defining an upfront contract, or defining what it means, to give our clients great accounting or an exceptional client experience, is you put definitions around that. And then I was really happy, like a year in, because people would walk up and say, hey, I want to talk to you about something from a client experience standpoint. I have this going on, and I was like, wow, like we know we've got kind of have a common language. What happens though is you continue to grow and new people come in and things like that. You have to make sure that you stay up with really understanding and not just getting unconsciously competent in the fact that like everybody knows what those definitions are. So in 2023, that step back, it wasn't as long as our initial rollout, but we did take some very purposeful and dedicated time to say, okay, you guys, especially on the newer side, are hearing these definitions. You're walking through those motions. Let's take a step back and talk about the why behind it and really how it relates to our passion to bring that deeper understanding. And that was, I think, very helpful.
We rolled the whole thing out to the full organization on the first day. And then on the second day, we did actually a workshop with all of our leadership team, and we had them practice upfront contracts. We had them practice delivering the expectation summary, crucial conversations, and how to prep for those meetings, and then how to recap and focus through the whole life cycle. So we actually did practice, amongst the full leadership team in April.
I think this is
So,
our final quote, right?
yeah. So why
there
do
we
we
go.
solicit feedback? Well, silent customers can be deadly. Encourage them to complain. This is where we got the get the call. If you're thinking about replacing us, call us so we can help. I recently had gone and worked with a client that was out of town, and I met with them a couple of times, and my recommendation is they needed somebody in-house because there was a management issue going on. And so I helped them define the role, post the role, and I interviewed the person that took over our role. And ultimately, it's getting the call versus them just saying, this isn't working, and us being able to help and make that a positive transition out. Or they get a call and they decide, oh, wait, we could give you more scope. Those are the positive. Oftentimes in our staff meetings, I will have my ringer go off on my phone. We do a client experience story every staff meeting, and I'll have it ring, and I will show all the different phone calls that we got in the last 2 weeks that were additional scope or client relationship driven that brought something positive to the table. And so I hear about all of it, and then it's just another way to really reinforce getting the call and setting up the relationship for that. So here's our impact to date. In 2017, when we formed the work group, we defined attrition as 2 different ways: uncontrollable. And ultimately, uncontrollable is a client that goes out of business, or there's an acquisition where the accounting team is already in place. So basically, there's not an opportunity for us to do the accounting again. Controllable is anything else, whether it's fee related, whether it's they decide they need somebody internally, everything else is controllable. What we identified a little bit later was also we started initiating some attrition on our own and parting the ways based on who maybe isn't a fit or isn't aligned with us. And that gave us a little bit of power and really support of our team. And our team has been very appreciative of us taking a look at that. I would say we already were, but it's a little bit more defined process. I often get asked in interviews, what are the clients like? Are they nice? Well, I'm not going to have somebody be ugly to our team. So there is a mutual respect expectation. We will hit that very quickly if there's an issue. We're presenting accounting if there's an integrity issue, if we're asked to do something that is outside of our comfort zone accounting wise, we're going to handle that. So ultimately in 2017, we had 6 clients close or were acquired, and we had 23 that left us. The number before that was 27. And through the years, you can see how it went down. It was really important for us during COVID to actually maintain relationships. We were involved in helping secure PPP funds and ERC funds for our clients. We looked a lot and talked a lot about cash and cash flow and how it is not a stimulus, helping them support their business staying open and maintain what they needed to maintain to continue. So we did not see a lot of clients go out of business or need to leave because of our cost and their cost, because we helped manage them through the process. For controllable, we've seen that drop to 10, and actually in 2023, that dropped to 4. So we only had 4 clients leave last year that was related to controllable and client initiated. And 2 of those were needing internal people to manage. We do not manage staff at our clients. So if there's a management problem, that is not going to be us. That needs to be our client. And then we opted to exit out of quite a few relationships last year, 13 total. And then we had 3 uncontrollable. So I just actually got all these final metrics this week. So, but ultimately, we have a consistent NPS of 90 plus, and according to NPS and Delighted, most accounting firms are between 30 and 40. And we've maintained this since we started. It looks like we have a couple more questions. External and internal sources, either in the number of hours. Do you want to answer that, or do you want me to?
Yeah, I mean, take a stab. I don't know that I can say dollars off the top of my head, but there's definitely time, right?
So there definitely was an investment once during that work group, I raised my hand and I said, this is what I want to do. I was a controller. I had my own team. So there was an investment in me moving into the role, for sure. And we have identified the number of hours that our team, we spend 6 hours client a day and 2 hours at the leadership level on Venturity internal. And nobody went outside of that. So we really had the work group, which is why it took 2 years. We met once a month for a period of time, then we went to once a quarter. So we weren't, we probably could have smashed it in and done it quicker, but we just took our time. And that helped kind of spread some of those costs out.
We put kind of an all call out there to ask people that they wanted to be invited. And then there were a couple of folks that we thought would be key to have on the team. So it was a nice combination because there were folks that raised their hand and willingly offered, especially this second time around. It's been really nice now that people know a little bit more about it as well to get re-engaged in it. And they have some learnings and they want to offer their feedback and from their perspective. And so it's been nice because I think we've got the same number of people in the work group again. Excuse me.
I had to turn a couple people down.
Yeah.
Because we also keep our work groups to 7 people, so it doesn't get too many opinions and you're not able to make forward progress. All right, so we can stop and get some questions. I'm going to stop sharing and we'll give you our contact information afterwards, but let me stop sharing so we can see everybody's faces.
Thank you, Rane and Deanna. So everyone feel free to jump in. You can certainly ask through the chat, but you can also just unmute yourself and ask your questions.
I would also say before we start taking questions, since so many of you said that you have a purposeful program or dedicated program yourself, I mean, I'd love to do some sharing here and hear what others are doing as well. Anyone?
I can talk on that a little bit. So Eli Makis is a part of this group and he asked me to join this specific training today. So it's been really insightful. But I think one kind of mission or passion that we have as firm is that the client should never know, like not know what's going on. They should never ask you what's going on. So that's a big part of what we do. It's a little different because we're a law firm, so it's still a service. And retention's a little bit harder because people usually come to us for one instance than multiple things. They don't retain us. But we do have clients come back who maybe have things like that. But I think it's really important that the client never asks like what's going on with the status. So communication is really big with us. And then a way that we do exit interviews is just through a survey to see how we're doing, how did it go, things like that.
It's really good.
One of our things around communication is we do send weekly updates to all of our clients, and I'm copied on those as well as our COO. And it basically is what we accomplished this week and what we have to accomplish next week. And we try to say that, like, keep the client to-dos separated so they know like what they need. We talk about direct, if you need something to meet your delivery deadline, then you need to say that, not at your earliest convenience. So we really do a lot of talking with our team and coaching with our team on ways to word things to get what you need in a respectful way.
Okay, we have another question while people are thinking maybe about sharing their best practices. Deanna and Rane, how do you get clarity around the client experience you want your employees to deliver when every client is different? So maybe someone emails, someone calls, or maybe meetings. How do you sort of handle that?
So when we're in our meetings talking about communication, we actually ask them, what's your preferred form of communication? Email, Slack, Teams, cell phone, and almost all of them, not all, most of them say start with email. Then if it's something on fire, please text me, and gives us permission to reach out in any way. We try to stay away from additional communication channels like Slack and Teams, unless it's really needed for logins or things that are, an immediate response, because that's a lot to keep up with multiple different clients. So we really do try to keep to phone and email. And actually one of my interview questions I ask is, can you give me an example of a time that you would email a client, a time that you would call a client, and a time that you would request a meeting with a client? Because ultimately we don't keep email chains going where there's confusion. Pick up the phone. If there's an issue, pick up the phone. If there's a big issue, pick up the phone and schedule a meeting. And so we really kind of lay the groundwork for that as well.
Great. We have another question. This question is, Interested in change management tools. Or what are you using and the timelines that are realistic for making changes?
We didn't use a specific tool. I wish I could say we were that advanced. You know, we had our meeting cadence, we kept the meetings, we were very purposeful. We did recaps of the meetings. We do have a regroup tracker that we use once we rolled out the program. If you want to speak a little bit to that, but during the process of establishing the new process, we didn't necessarily use a tool, but we were very purposeful in the time that we spent together and the recaps and next steps.
Yeah, so I use a regroup tracker to ensure that those initial meetings are had throughout the life cycle and hold the teams accountable to those. We actually do annual regroups for the steady state clients. And so making sure that we're having those touch points. In fact, our new management team, we've made a concerted effort for us to join meetings over the next year where they're getting to see other faces than just their team leads. So I track that, I track their fee structure and the key players and keep notes in it. And that's what I hit in their one-on-ones. So I use that. And then I also give them direct feedback on the NPS. So if a client like didn't leave a note, but just gave us a grade, they know what that is.
We are in the process right now of implementing a KPI matrix that will be populated automatically that will help us aggregate that data a little bit more succinctly on an ongoing basis. We're excited about that, but we haven't rolled it out. It's more of an internal tool for ongoing kind of tracking and just so we can know where we stand, you know, at a moment's notice if needed.
Paul, you asked a question about percentage of total clients in addition to raw numbers. We don't keep track of the percentage of total clients, but what we do is on our scoreboard for GTOB, we actually have a line for new business and a line for attrition. And we track that monthly. And we also track projected attrition. So to my point earlier that we've kept clients longer in the life cycle and we don't get a 30-day notice very often anymore, it actually lets the team know, hey, 3 months from now, we're going to see this drop off and we need to go ahead and start filling in that revenue. And so we are tracking number of relationships, dollars related to that monthly and annually. And then we're looking at the projected as well.
So I'll go. I just have a general question about who actually holds the actual relationship. Now, to give you some background, we've had experience. We've tried one key person, like a point person, trying to hold that relationship. The problems are, you know, they go on vacation for 2 weeks, or they go on maternity leave, or they leave the company. Then the relationship's completely gone. The other side of it is the team holds the relationship. Well, then it turns out that, you know, because the team holds it, nobody does. Nobody's doing it really, really well. You know, nobody's like a true trusted person, a friend for that person, really having a strong relationship. So we're trying to figure that out as a company, you know, and find some middle ground, you know, so we can actually have those really good, strong relationships consistently without any bumps in the road, essentially.
For us,
That's a good question.
we often define internally who's the quarterback, and we will talk about who's going to be the client management, you know, person. And I would say for our steady state clients that are accounting, that's always the controller or the implementation director. They own the relationship, and I come in as an additional resource, and during transitions, I'm a point of escalation. So we clearly define that with the client, like I'm not going to be managing the relationship, but I am here if you need anything or something is not going as expected. And then if there's a CFO involved, we'll discuss like what's their level of involvement and do they need to be the quarterback and are they going to be the head of delivery? And we'll define that. But ultimately it's the lead of the team.
And because we have various stages of the life cycle, like implementations and the steady state, we can a lot of times, to your point on someone being out, have like a primary and secondary. So if there is something going on and someone needs to be out, then that person can jump back in. So we've got more than, one person that has that kind of level of relationship. We don't all maintain that all day long, every day, but because of the way that we onboard our clients, we do have the ability to tap back in if needed. But at any given point in time, as Rane said, one person knows that they are the primary.
It was interesting, the controller that took over my former client base recently lost a team member. And she came to me and she said, thank you, because you built such trust that they gave me a little leeway on my deliverables this month, knowing that I was shorthanded and that we would deliver and deliver well. And it just spoke to, like, some of the relationships are 11 and 12 years old, and we continue to build that trust. And I was really happy for her. Like, she's done fine. It had nothing to do with me, really. But, she's had them for over 2 or 3 years. And so she's done her own job. But for her to be able to kind of tap into that a little bit and get ahead of it, like in the past, she might not have gotten ahead of it.
Cool, thank you.
Anything else? I'm going to put our screen back up here with our contact information. I am more than happy to talk to anybody, answer questions, give further information around the program and how I enforce it and we support it and hold people accountable to it. And our last quote, give it a try and make it your own. And then share with us so we can, because the work group goals for this year are really to look at how do we bring our CXO practice, which is a newer practice, along with what we've already have in place, as well as just some new attrition. We're going to look at the attrition that we've gotten in the past couple of years and see if there's something different than we had when we originally looked at it. So we are excited. We're also looking at NPS to see if there's a change we should make there. So Deanna and I are on that committee, although we might have to kick her off in a couple of months with her new role. But we've got a great committee that is excited to kind of look and see what the next evolution is.